Hey, everybody, I'd like to thank you for joining another episode of The Complete Advisor. I'm very excited. We have a very special guest today, Matt Green. We're going to talk about a topic that I find really fascinating, Matt. It's just so great that you're here for this, because I think when I think of this topic, I do think of you and who you are and your practice. I'm kind of a fanboy over here. But first, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Dennis, thanks for having me. Always a joy to get together and talk it up.
Absolutely. So our topic, I didn't even tell you what our topic is. So you're a little left field here for you. But what I want to talk about is personal and professional growth. And before, when I said that I think of you this way, I've gotten to watch your practice for years and years and years. And the nuance now that your practice has versus, I feel a little bit akin because I started in the industry working for my dad in a smaller area with a small insurance company and out in the evenings going to appointments and making phone calls on Sunday nights. I hope you didn't have to experience that, but man, I still get PTSD when I think about that. And I know that you, if I'm recalling correctly, you started a little bit, maybe a smaller practice, and now multiple offices, huge AUM numbers. But before we dive into the topic, so Matt Green, wealth advisor, Trinity Financial Group. I've got my notes here. You started your career in the financial services industry last century.
Wow, it seems like a long time when you put it that way. But yeah, I did. Yeah, 1998.
1998. One of the things that I've always loved about your practice is your commitment to clients. And in fact, I saw this on your website and I forgot it. You actually trademarked a phrase.
I did.
What's the phrase?
Relationships are essential to life, therefore make them last forever.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's a core of what we believe, and it's just so true. I mean, life is about relationships, so that's what it's about.
Absolutely. So you've got the practice. You've got an office in Omaha. You've got an office in Lincoln.
Correct.
Okay.
Omaha and Lincoln. Correct.
Omaha and Lincoln, and then this is something that a lot of people don't know. Married over 20 years, 9 boys. 9 of them.
The roster is full. And 4 grandbabies. So I want to throw them in there too. So my oldest son is married, and they have 4.
So if the grandkids are of decent size right now, then that is a football team with 2 maybe equipment managers or assistant coaches. It
is. Where we live in small rural Nebraska, we still play 8-man football, even 6-man football. So, but we have an 8-man team for sure.
That is fascinating. So let's dive in. So let's talk about personal growth. So one of the things I've been in the situation of working for, like my dad at a small agency, but then I've also worked for. At one time, I was the employee of maybe the largest insurance company in North America. So there, with the big company, they had different opportunities for personal growth to expand your knowledge. But as an independent financial professional, you don't really have the HR resources that a big company does.
No, as a small shop, you are the HR.
That's right.
I mean, it's just you. You and your. And again, as I started, Dennis, it was knocking on doors, the long-term care space. That's how I cut my teeth. That's how we did it. So it's come a long ways for sure.
So so let's talk about that in particular. So how does a guy who's doing well at the world that you're in with long-term care in that space, how do you recognize that you need to grow? And then how did you start looking for opportunities, and what'd you do?
Yeah. So for me, that growth really happened when you surround yourself with people that are doing more, right? More successful from a business perspective. You look at these other firms or these other independent guys, and that really started for me when I connected actually with creative, going back to I think 2005 maybe or 2006. We would come into Kansas City and we got to meet. For the first time, I was kind of on an island in rural Nebraska and didn't really know anybody that was doing anything out there, bigger maybe than what we were at the time. But coming here and getting introduced and then developing these relationships and friendships with these other advisors, and just kind of looking at them and seeing, wow, like they've got it figured out, like they've got it figured out. And so for me, it was, how do I get to that next step? And it was just met some great individuals. I'll throw Mike Brown's name out there, good friend, mentor. And for me, and just really challenging me, like, Matt, run it like a business. And I just came to this point where I was like, man, that makes sense. Like, I need to run it like a business, and it's going to take more than me to do that. Like, I'm going to have to be really good at what I'm good at and really focus on that, and then I'm going to have to hire and bring people in to do those things I didn't want to do, which just allowed me to grow and to really scale the business.
Now, you've done different training on asking questions and interacting, and I've always found that interesting. And your style is a little different than a lot of other advisors, which is great, because every advisor you have to find what works for you, because you can't be somebody else, but you can just be a better version of yourself.
Right.
And so you have a style that is a little different. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but I notice it, and it's more. I wouldn't say soft-spoken's not the right word for it, but it's not as, I don't know, maybe not as direct. Or how would you describe your style?
I would say, Dennis, so I got to a point in the career where I was kind of at the top of the game. I mean, I felt I was doing really good. And then I met an individual that really showed me that, Matt, there's more, you have more to give, right? And let's work on your presentation and how you communicate with people. So instead of kind of telling people, what you think they should be doing or the products they should be in, it's more about listening and then helping the client to come full circle and say, like, oh wow, yeah, I need that, or this is what I need, and remember, when they speak it's golden, right? That's so true, instead of us telling them. So the whole idea was creating a different experience, because I think in general, when I was taught back in the day, it was like, I call it the create pain, fix pain. Like, oh, here's your pain points, but I got the solution, or I got the product. And so I wanted to kind of get away from that, because that's all I knew. And so I really invested time and money and energy into learning a process that where it comes across, it's not threatening, it's not kind of in your face, it's not product driven. It's just, let's listen to people, and it just resonated with me. And we are blessed, man, to be in a business where we can go through life with people and do life and do the hard things of life. Like, right, like these are tough decisions to make. Do we retire, or a death or loss of a loved one? So to be able to go through life with people, that changed my perspective. Like, I'm doing life with these people, and I want to be compassionate. I want to encourage every client interaction. I want to empathize with them, and I want to elevate them. Like, that's just what we do. So the technique is, I guess, a little different, or the sales process is different than most. It's creating an experience unlike they've ever had before when coming to a financial professional. And when you do that, that's when things happen, and the referrals come, right? They just come, and because they leave your office and they're thinking, man, what just happened in there? Like, that was, wow, I can't put my finger on it, right? And it was an amazing experience. And then they're going to go tell that person that they love and care about, man, you got to meet this guy. Yeah. So,
was it hard to switch from the pain? Let me show you the pain you didn't know, and I've got the solution. To talk about that transition, and how did you recognize that the person you talked to on this growth path? Because sometimes what we need is right here, but we won't acknowledge it. It takes us 10, 15 times before we finally say, oh, I guess I do need that.
Yeah, the switching from one to another when you're already, quote, successful, right? If you're knocking down big numbers or whatever, and by the industry standard, hey, you've arrived, right? Well, to change that was painfully hard at first, because it's almost like a fight or flight mentality. Like, you're going to go back to what you know. If they're going to throw something at you, a question, you revert to what you've always done, right? And so I had to spend a lot of time really just pausing. I remember during a presentation, just pausing, taking in the question. And I remember one time, then it's like, okay, this is how I'm going to answer this, but wait, I can't answer it like that. So I had to answer the question in a different fashion that wasn't threatening. You know what I mean? So it took a lot to be able to switch that, but I saw the fruits of that labor, and I saw Through my mentor, I saw what I wanted to be, or I knew what I could get to, and that's so it was hard, but I had it figured out.
Did you arrive at that mentor where from a situation where you saw somebody's practice and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. I respect you. I'd like to do that, and that person took you under their wing, or they said, well, here's where
I saw this person's practice. I saw it firsthand. I got to see, like, man, they're doing some big numbers, and I'm interested to see how they're processed. And I had already gotten in a rhythm where I would go every year to another advisor's practice: Florida, Ohio, California, Mississippi. So I made it my goal every year to go to a bigger practice or someone that was doing more production than me and just see what they're doing. And I was blessed to have guys that would allow me to do that, like come in and, hey, Matt, this is how we do it here.
So you would approach other advisors and say, could I come in and see your?
Yes. And so I did that and numerous times, and I met the person that ended up mentoring me and helping me change my process. I met him at an event, and we just kind of hit it off, and I was asking about his practice and how he did things, and I was intrigued, and I said, hey, can I come and watch you? And he's like, yeah. And then I went, and then I was like, okay, like, wow, That's cool. This resonates with me, and I got to have that. So, and I think every process is repeatable if you put in the effort. So I think, and I've shared my process with lots of people in the industry and helped them, evolve as well too. So it's again, I think it kind of goes back to we get to do life together with our clients, and relationships are essential. And I was put on this earth to serve, not to be served. So I want to help, and I get great joy and satisfaction, Dennis, out of watching and hearing other people succeed.
Yeah.
So I love to mentor and talk with other advisors and help them in any way I can.
I like that. Everybody in life has a way of keeping score. For some people, it's money. For some people, it's possessions. And for other people, it's how are you keeping score? It's helping other people be successful. Because at the end of the day, I mean, having some money in the pocket is a very nice thing. Sure. It does make life easier. But does that necessarily get you out of bed on a cold day or fill your heart when you're?
It's kind of like success to significance, right? Like we've all found success in this industry from I'll call it the worldly standard. We're looking at, hey, we're big numbers and big revenue, whatever. That's great, and you can get all those awards and whatever. But at some point, that's not going to drive you. What drives me, I should say, is significance. What impact can I have on other people, right? And that obviously radiates down to my family, right? Like family first, and I want to pour into my kids. I want to pour into my relationships, and I want to do the same thing for clients. So I'm kind of at a point where the success is great, but what's significant? Like I want to make a difference that way and be significant for people and help them.
So let me ask you this question then. So now, as you're continuing on this path, because we're always evolving, so what are you looking to, or what are you looking towards? Do you have your eye on anything for the next iteration? There's the word I was looking for. The next Matt 3.0 as you're continuing to improve?
Yeah, we're always. I think if you think you've made it, you might as well just shut the door. So we're always evolving. I'm a student of the game. Like I want to learn from other people, and there's a lot of successful advisors out there that I'm learning from day in and day out. And when I get a chance, I want to kind of listen to a conversation. So the trajectory of the practice is we want to continue to grow. I'm at a point where I've had to bring on more staff. So in this last year, I brought in CFP. He's our director of planning. Brought in a risk management specialist, is what we call Jordan, and he's doing that Medicare thing and life insurance. We're just, as you continue to grow, if you want to keep growing, you have to be able to scale the practice, and we have to be scalable too, and from our time perspective. So
sure. I
really just got to focus on meeting and creating and developing those relationships, and really position the client to see, hey, this is a team approach. There's 8 of us working behind the scenes for you. And so that's kind of, you got to create that. But I'd say the next thing is continuing to look. I would love to be able to buy a practice in the future.
That's our next topic.
There you go. Love to do that. So that's kind of on the radar, but just continuing to grow the AUM and continue to develop. I've got 2 current advisors that I brought in as well that want to help them grow, right? And I mentor 2 or 3 other advisors. So that's what gets me excited about going to work every day. It's
Nice.
getting out and saying, hey, what's the next thing going to be? So
Well, I'm excited to see what the next thing is
Yeah.
for it.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.